would be speaking of. One thing I'd like to make clear and get it off my mind. MashaAllah, the people you see here today, the youth, the elderly, the sisters upstairs, in general, the crowd, the numbers, you guys can do this every Friday. The children can be here every Jumu'ah. The youth can attend the Friday sermon every week. Subhanallah, if I were to say, without exaggeration, the current life support that the Muslim Ummah has left in the West is the Friday khutbah. You've heard of the term life support. When a person is so ill and sick that there's no choice but to put them on life support, lifeline, just to keep them alive for a little longer, in hopes that they may find a cure or a miracle shows its way. In the same manner, when it comes to our spirituality, our faith, our belief, our religion, the only sound, more or less knowledge and bites we get each week, I hope that it is from the Jummah khutbah every week. Think of it. Do you think your children, do you think your relatives, your friends, your social circle will find sound, authentic knowledge from the internet? Or from their circle, or from elsewhere? This is something to think about and ponder over. No excuses of not being able to attend Jumu'ah. And subhanallah, yes, without a doubt, Jama'ah has its own virtue. It has its own merit, own reward in the sight of Allah. But what other advice or nasiha will you possibly get throughout the week except for the nasiha that you will hear or hope to hear than the Jumu'ah khutbah itself? So for that reason and sake, I humbly request and I make this plea before you, not just for your own sake, but for the sake of your children and the upcoming generations. Do your best in attending the Jumu'ah khutbah. Come in a little early to listen to what the Imam or the Khatib has to say. Subhanallah, not to what I have to say. I only get to see the greater community here once a month, mashallah. And as of today's date, I'll see you next year, inshallah. Subhanallah, I only come here once a month. So the other khatibs and the a'imma and the scholars and the ulama who come to deliver the Friday sermon, khutbah, go out of your way in making sure you're here before the khutbah starts, before it commences, so that we can take what we hear and implement it into our own private lives. There's enough going on in terms of the world, and this isn't the podium to be addressing those issues, for then people will make more or less, someone can say, start to differ in their opinions. Each man for himself, each sister for herself. Subhanallah. So the crowd you see today, the very crowd can reappear next Friday, inshallah. And it's not an excuse to say, well, it's winter break. Let me ask you this. Are we Muslims only in winter break? Are we Muslims only in summer break? The message of the Quran, the divine revelation sent to the last prophet, was udkhulu fi silmi kaffa, enter into Islam completely. Not 50-50, not 80-20, not when it suits your desires, not when it's convenient for us. But no, this is commitment. This is submission. This is belief in the oneness of Allah and in His commandments. If we do not instill these values and these ethics and these principles within our children today, do you think someone else will instill the very values tomorrow once they've grown up? Once a train is missed, it's hard to catch the same train again. Yes, of course, there's always a next one, but not the same one. And this is the nature of upbringing. We cannot afford to be late in terms of so-called tarbiyah. In bringing up our children, it starts from day one, not from day 1,000. And subhanallah, much needs to be said, but just take today's advice as a general advice, as the time doesn't allow us to go into any one subject matter. keep one thing in mind. You are a Muslim the moment you wake up in the morning until you go back to sleep. And while you're sleeping, you're still a Muslim. Our duty and obligation is to not wake up for our work or for breakfast or to run errands, but rather our obligation is to wake up for Salatul Fajr. And this goes a long way, not just for myself, but for my children as well. If I start to awaken my child for school during school days at 7:30, 8 o'clock, and they're missing their salah, what message am I driving home? What message am I instilling within my own household, underneath my roof? In other words, in blunt terms, son, your religion isn't important enough for you to wake up 6 o'clock in the morning, but your world, your education, your future depends on you waking up at 7:30 so you're on time for school. Son, daughter, you're still too small. And subhanallah, a disclaimer, salah becomes obligatory from the age of puberty. You as a parent can decide and see your child for yourself. It's not, well, she's only 17, it's okay, let her sleep. He just turned 18, it's fine for him to sleep through. Subhanallah, the obligation of salah starts from the age of puberty. So when we fail to awaken our own children for salah in the morning, what message am I really giving? That it's okay. I want you to succeed in life. I want you to get the best of grades. I want you to score home runs. I want you to be successful in everything you do. But it all starts from education, not from salah. Okay, that's exactly what shaitan wanted. Allah mentions in the Quran, worship Allah, perform prostration, sujood, لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ, so that you can succeed. And the word falah in Arabic, which we hear in the adhan as well, Hayya ala salah, come to salah. Hayya ala falah, come to success. It means you want to succeed, Allah will offer you success and grant you success, guarantee in this world as well as the hereafter, with the condition that you pray your salah. With the condition that you attend and adhere to the call of Allah of offering your salah. So I really wanted to mention this point, that start with your salah. After Iman, the belief system, the very second pillar of Islam is our salah. As-salatu imaduddin. The hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the very first thing we will be questioned about from our actions on the day of judgment will be our, you guessed it, salah. Subhanallah. And the hadith continues, if a person happens to fall short in his salah, in the fara'id of his salah, the call will be made. Look to see what optional prayers has he offered in his lifetime, so we may cover the gap, the difference. Subhanallah. Think of it this way. You go to make a deal, and you're short just a few pennies. Subhanallah. You're short by just a few pennies. And the seller most likely, if it's automated, will say, you can't transact. No, you need to pay full price. If it's a human being on the other end, maybe there's some sympathy, or subhanallah, something may work out. But you have to pay full price. Someone comes along the way and says, you know what, I'll cover the change. That is your nafil salah, which is going to cover the change of your fard salah on the day of Qiyamah. Not in the sense of you missing your salah completely, but the deficiency that you had in your salah while offering it. I start my salah, Allahu Akbar. Where do I need to be after Salatul Jama'ah? I got so many commitments. Got to be there. I have to attend to that call, that text message, that meeting. That's not salah, by the way. That's your me time, private zone. You know, safe comfort zone. Subhanallah, your own bubble. This is what's happening in our salah. Subhanallah. Salah is where قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. Subhanallah. You know, even the khutbah in itself is a form of salah, where we're attentive and listening to the message and trying to take home the message and implement it. You know, on a lighter note, as the year is coming to an end, I came across a message not too long ago that someone asked during the khutbah, as khutbah has etiquettes of its own. During the khutbah, the person saying next to him, hey, what's the password to the masjid? You know, the masjid's Wi-Fi, what's the password? And the brother turned and said, fear Allah. You know, what are you talking about? Listen to the khutbah, fear Allah. And the youngster said, is that with the uppercase or lowercase? Subhanallah. I'll leave you with this message. How restless do we become when our devices go offline? How restless do we become when our phones die? There's no more battery left. How restless do we become when there's an issue at home with our Wi-Fi? There's no connection. SubhanAllah, it's like, something's amiss. What has happened? The world has come to an end. Why am I not getting signals? What is going on? You start to call your company, your service provider. What is happening? I'm disconnected. How am I to go with my day? Take the same behavior, the same approach, the same mindset of being restless when you're disconnected from Allah. When you're no longer able to connect with Allah and make dua and you see your dua come into fruition. Become the same person, individual, in the same manner, however restless you were when you lost your